Section 5 of The Art of Cookery Made Plain and Easy by Hannah Glasse. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 2, Part 1. Made Dishes. To dress Scotch collops. Take a piece of fillet of veal, cut it in thin pieces about as big as a crown piece, but very thin. Shake a little flour over it, then you put a little butter in a frying pan and melt it. Put in your collops and fry them quick till they are brown, then lay them in a dish. Have ready a good ragout made thus. Take a little butter in your stew pan and melt it, then add a large spoonful of flour. Stir it about till it is smooth. Then put in a pint of good brown gravy. Season it with pepper and salt. Pour in a small glass of white wine, some veal sweetbreads, forcemeat balls, truffles and morels, ox palates, and mushrooms. Stew them gently for half an hour. Add the juice of half a lemon to it. Put it over the collops and garnish with rashers of bacon. Some like the Scotch collops made thus. Put the collops into the ragout and stew them for 5 minutes. To dress white collops. Cut the veal the same as for Scotch collops. Throw them into a stew pan. Put some boiling water over them and stir them about, then strain them off. Take a pint of good veal broth and thicken it. Add a bundle of sweet herbs with some mace. Put sweetbread, forcemeat balls and fresh mushrooms. If no fresh to be had, use pickled ones washed in warm water. Stew them about 15 minutes. Add the yolk of 2 eggs and a pint of cream. Beat them well together with some nutmeg grated, and keep stirring till it boils up. Add the juice of 1/4 of a lemon, then put it in your dish. Garnish with lemon. To dress a fillet of veal with collops. For an alteration, take a small fillet of veal, cut what collops you want, then take the udder and fill it with forcemeat. Roll it round. Tie it with a pack thread across and roast it. Lay your collops in the dish and lay your udder in the middle. Garnish your dishes with lemon. To make forcemeat balls. Now you are to observe that forcemeat balls are a great addition to all made dishes, made thus. Take half a pound of veal and half a pound of suet, cut fine and beat in a marble mortar or wooden bowl. Have a few sweet herbs and parsley shred fine, a little mace dried and beat fine, a small nutmeg grated or half a large one, a little lemon peel cut very fine, a little pepper and salt and the yolks of 2 eggs. Mix all these well together, then roll them in little round balls and some in little long balls. Roll them in flour and fry them brown. If they are for anything of white sauce, put a little water in a saucepan, and when the water boils, put them in and let them boil for a few minutes, but never fry them for white sauce. Truffles and morels, good in sauces and soups. Take half an ounce of truffles and morels. Let them be well washed in warm water to get the sand and dirt out. Then simmer them in 2 or 3 spoonfuls of water for a few minutes. Then put them with the liquor into the sauce. They thicken both sauce and soup, and give it a fine flavour. To stew ox palates. Stew them very tender, which must be done by putting them into cold water, and let them stew very softly over a slow fire till they are tender. Then take off the 2 skins, cut them in pieces, and put them either into your made dish or soup. And coxcombs and artichoke bottoms, cut small, and put into the made dish. Garnish your dishes with lemon, sweetbread stewed, or white dishes, and fried for brown ones, and cut in little pieces. To ragout a leg of mutton. Take all the skin and fat off, cut it very thin the right way of the grain, then butter your stew pan and shake some flour into it. Slice half a lemon and half an onion, cut them very small, a little bundle of sweet herbs and a blade of mace. Put all together with your meat into the pan. Stir it a minute or two, and then put in 6 spoonfuls of gravy, and have ready an anchovy minced small. Mix it with some butter and flour, stir it all together for 6 minutes, and then dish it up. To make a brown fricassee. You must take your rabbits or chickens and skin the rabbits, but not the chickens. Then cut them into small pieces and rub them over with yolks of eggs. Have ready some grated bread, a little beaten mace, and a little grated nutmeg mixed together, and then roll them in it. Put a little butter into a stew pan, and when it is melted, put in your meat. Fry it of a fine brown, and take care they do not stick to the bottom of the pan. Then pour the butter from them, and pour in half a pint of brown gravy, a glass of white wine, a few mushrooms, or 2 spoonfuls of the pickle, a little salt, if wanted, and a piece of butter rolled in flour. When it is of a fine thickness, dish it up and send it to table. You may add truffles and morels and coxcombs. To make a white fricassee. Take 2 chickens and cut them in small pieces. Put them in warm water to draw out the blood. Then put them into some good veal broth. If no veal broth, a little boiling water, and stew them gently with a bundle of sweet herbs and a blade of mace till they are tender. Then take out the sweet herbs, add a little flour and butter, boil together to thicken it a little. Then add half a pint of cream and the yolk of an egg beat very fine. Some pickled mushrooms. The best way is to put some fresh mushrooms in at first. If no fresh, then pickled. Keep stirring it till it boils up. Then add the juice of half a lemon. Stir it well to keep it from curdling. Then put it in your dish. Garnish with lemon. To fricassee rabbits, lamb or veal. Observe the directions given in the preceding article. A second way to make a white fricassee. You must take 2 or 3 rabbits or chickens, skin them and lay them in warm water, and dry them with a clean cloth. Put them into a stew pan with a blade or 2 of mace, a little black and white pepper, an onion, a little bundle of sweet herbs, and do but just cover them with water. Stew them till they are tender, then with a fork take them out, strain the liquor, and put them into the pan again with half a pint of the liquor and half a pint of cream, the yolks of 2 eggs beat well, half a nutmeg grated, a glass of white wine, a little piece of butter rolled in flour, and a gill of mushrooms. Keep stirring all together all the while one way, till it is smooth and of a fine thickness, and then dish it up. Add what you please. A third way of making a white fricassee. Take 3 chickens, skin them, cut them into small pieces, that is, every joint asunder, lay them in warm water for 1/4 of an hour, take them out and dry them with a cloth, then put them into a stew pan with milk and water, and boil them tender. Take a pint of good cream, 1/4 of a pound of butter, and stir it till it is thick. Then let it stand till it is cool, and put to it a little beaten mace, half a nutmeg grated, a little salt, and a few mushrooms. Stir all together, then take the chickens out of the stew pan. Throw away what they are boiled in, clean the pan, and put in the chickens and sauce together. Keep the pan shaking round till they are quite hot, and dish them up. Garnish with lemon. To fricassee rabbits, lamb, sweetbreads, or tripe. Do them the same way. Another way to fricassee tripe. Take a piece of double tripe and cut it in pieces of about 2 inches. Put them in a saucepan of water with an onion and a bundle of sweet herbs. Boil it till it is quite tender. Then have ready a béchamel, made thus. Take some lean ham, cut it in thin pieces and put it in a stew pan, and some veal, having first cut off all the fat, put it over the ham. Cut an onion in slices, some carrot and turnip, a little thyme, cloves and mace, and some fresh mushrooms chopped. Put a little milk at the bottom and draw it gently over the fire. Be careful it does not scorch. Then put in a quart of milk and half a pint of cream. Stew it gently for an hour. Thicken it with a little flour and milk. Season it with salt and a very little cayenne pepper, bruised fine. Then strain it off through a tammy. Put your tripe into it, toss it up, and add some forcemeat balls, mushrooms, and oysters blanched. Then put it into your dish and garnish with fried oysters or sweetbreads or lemons. To ragout hog's feet and ears. Take your ears out of the pickle they are soused in, or boil them till they are tender, then cut them into long thin bits about 2 inches long and about as thick as a quill. Put them into your stew pan with half a pint of good gravy, or as much as will cover them, a glass of white wine, a good deal of mustard, a good piece of butter rolled in flour, and a little pepper and salt. Stir all together till it is of a fine thickness, and then dish it up. The hog's feet must not be stewed, but boiled tender, then slit them in two, and put the yolk of an egg over, and crumbs of bread, and broil or fry them. Put the ragout of ears in the middle, and the feet round it. Note, they make a very pretty dish fried with butter and mustard, and a little good gravy, if you like it. Then only cut the feet and ears in two. You may add half an onion, cut small. To fry tripe. Cut your tripe in long pieces of about 3 inches wide, and all the breadth of the double. Put it in some small beer batter or yolks of eggs. Have a large pan of good fat and fry it brown. Then take it out and put it to drain. Dish it up with plain butter in a cup. Tripe Alla Kilkenny. This is a favourite Irish dish, and is done thus. Take a piece of double tripe cut in square pieces. Have 12 large onions peeled and washed clean. Cut them in two and put them on to boil in clean water till they are tender. Then put in your tripe and boil it 10 minutes. Pour off almost all the liquor. Shake a little flour in and put some butter in and a little salt and mustard. Shake it all over the fire till the butter is melted. Then put it in your dish and send it to table as hot as possible. Garnish with barberries or lemon. A Fricassee of Pigeons. Take 8 pigeons new killed, cut them in small pieces and put them in a stew pan with a pint of white wine and a pint of water. Season your pigeons with salt and pepper, a blade or two of mace, an onion, a bundle of sweet herbs, a good piece of butter just rolled in very little flour. Cover it close and let them stew till there is just enough for sauce, and then take out the onion and sweet herbs. Beat up the yolks of 3 eggs, grate half a nutmeg in, and with your spoon push the meat all to one side of the pan and the gravy to the other side, and stir in the eggs. Keep them stirring for fear of turning to curds, and when the sauce is fine and thick, shake all together, and then put the meat into the dish, pour the sauce over it, and have ready some slices of bacon toasted and fried oysters. Throw the oysters all over, and lay the bacon round. Garnish with lemon. A Fricassee of lambstones and sweetbreads. Have ready some lambstones blanched, parboiled and sliced, and flour 2 or 3 sweetbreads. If very thick, cut them in two. The yolks of 6 hard eggs whole, a few pistachio nut kernels, and a few large oysters. Fry these all of a fine brown, then pour out all the butter and add a pint of drawn gravy, the lamb stones, some asparagus tops about an inch long, some grated nutmeg, a little pepper and salt, 2 shallots shred small, and a glass of white wine. Stew all these together for 10 minutes. Then add the yolks of 3 eggs beat very fine, with a little cream and a little beaten mace. Stir all together till it is of a fine thickness, and then dish it up. Garnish with lemon. To hash a calf's head. Boil the head almost enough, then take the best half, and with a sharp knife take it nicely from the bone with the 2 eyes. Lay it in a little deep dish before a good fire, and take great care no ashes fall into it, and then hack it with a knife, cross and cross. Grate some nutmeg all over, the yolks of 2 eggs, a very little pepper and salt, a few sweet herbs, some crumbs of bread, and a little lemon peel chopped very fine. Baste it with a little butter, then baste it again. Keep the dish turning that it may be all brown alike. Cut the other half and tongue into little thin bits, and set on a pint of drawn gravy in a saucepan, a little bundle of sweet herbs, an onion, a little pepper and salt, a glass of white wine, and 2 shallots. Boil all these together a few minutes, then strain it through a sieve, and put it into a clean stew pan with the hash. Flour the meat before you put it in, and put in a few mushrooms, a spoonful of the pickle, 2 spoonfuls of ketchup, and a few truffles and morels. Stir all these together for a few minutes, then beat up half the brains, and stir into the stew pan and a little piece of butter rolled in flour. Take the other half of the brains and beat them up with a little lemon peel cut fine, a little nutmeg grated, a little beaten mace, a little thyme shred small, a little parsley, the yolk of an egg, and have some good dripping boiling in a stew pan. Then fry the brains in little cakes about as big as a crown piece. Fry about 20 oysters dipped in the yolk of an egg, toast some slices of bacon, fry a few forcemeat balls, and have ready a hot dish. If pewter, over a few clear coals, if china, over a pan of hot water. Pour in your hash, then lay in your toasted head, throw the forcemeat balls over the hash, and garnish the dish with fried oysters, the fried brains, and lemon. Throw the rest over the hash, lay the bacon round the dish, and send it to table. To hash a calf's head white. Take a pint of white gravy, a large wineglass of white wine, a little beaten mace, a little nutmeg, and a little salt. Throw into your hash a few mushrooms, a few truffles and morels, first parboiled, a few artichoke bottoms, and asparagus tops if you have them, a good piece of butter rolled in flour, the yolks of 2 eggs, half a pint of cream, and 1 spoonful of mushroom ketchup. Stir it all together very carefully till it is of a fine thickness. Then pour it into your dish and lay the other half of the head, as before mentioned, in the middle, and garnish as before directed, with fried oysters, brains, lemon, and forcemeat balls fried. To bake a calf's head. Take the head, pick it and wash it very clean. Take an earthen dish large enough to lay the head on, rub a little piece of butter all over the dish, then lay some long iron skewers across the top of the dish and lay the head on them. Skewer up the meat in the middle that it do not lie on the dish, then grate some nutmeg all over it, a few sweet herbs shred small, some crumbs of bread, a little lemon peel cut fine, and then flour it all over. Stick pieces of butter in the eyes and all over the head, and flour it again. Let it be well baked and of a fine brown. You may throw a little pepper and salt over it and put into the dish a piece of beef cut small, a bundle of sweet herbs, an onion, some whole pepper, a blade of mace, 2 cloves, a pint of water, and boil the brains with some sage. When the head is enough, lay it on a dish and set it to the fire to keep warm. Then stir all together in the dish and boil it in a saucepan. Strain it off, put it into the saucepan again, add a piece of butter rolled in flour and the sage and the brains chopped fine, a spoonful of ketchup and 2 spoonfuls of red wine. Boil them together, take the brains, beat them well and mix them with the sauce. Pour it into the dish and send it to table. You must bake the tongue with the head and do not cut it out. It will lie the handsomer in the dish. To bake a sheep's head. Do it the same way and it eats very well. To dress a lamb's head. Boil the head and pluck tender, but do not let the liver be too much done. Take the head up, hack it cross and cross with a knife, grate some nutmeg over it and lay it in a dish before a good fire. Then grate some crumbs of bread, some sweet herbs rubbed, a little lemon peel chopped fine, a very little pepper and salt, and baste it with a little butter. Then throw a little flour over it, and just as it is done to the same, baste it and drudge it. Take half the liver, the lights, the heart and tongue, chop them very small, with 6 or 8 spoonfuls of gravy or water. First shake some flour over the meat and stir it together, then put in the gravy or water, a good piece of butter rolled in a little flour, a little pepper and salt, and what runs from the head in the dish. Simmer all together a few minutes, and add half a spoonful of vinegar. Pour it into your dish, lay the head in the middle of the mincemeat, have ready the other half of the liver cut thin with some slices of bacon broiled, and lay round the head. Garnish the dish with lemon and send it to table. To ragout a neck of veal. Cut a neck of veal into steaks, flatten them with a rolling pin, season them with salt, pepper, cloves and mace, lard them with bacon, lemon peel and thyme, dip them in the yolks of eggs, make a sheet of strong cap paper up at the 4 corners in the form of a dripping pan. Pin up the corners, butter the paper and also the gridiron, and set it over a fire of charcoal. Put in your meat, let it do leisurely, keep it basting and turning to keep in the gravy. And when it is enough, have ready half a pint of strong gravy. Season it high, put in mushrooms and pickles, forcemeat balls dipped in the yolks of eggs, oysters stewed and fried, to lay round and at the top of your dish, and then serve it up. If for a brown ragout, put in red wine. If for a white one, put in white wine, with the yolks of eggs beat up with 2 or 3 spoonfuls of cream. To ragout a breast of veal. Take your breast of veal, put it into a large stew pan, put in a bundle of sweet herbs, an onion, some black and white pepper, a blade or 2 of mace, 2 or 3 cloves, a very little piece of lemon peel, and just cover it with water. When it is tender, take it up, bone it, put in the bones, boil it up till the gravy is very good, then strain it off, and if you have a little rich beef gravy, add 1/4 of a pint, put in half an ounce of truffles and morels, a spoonful or 2 of ketchup, 2 or 3 spoonfuls of white wine, and let them all boil together. In the meantime, flour the veal and fry it in butter till it is of a fine brown, then drain out all the butter and pour the gravy you are boiling to the veal, with a few mushrooms. Boil all together till the sauce is rich and thick, and cut the sweetbread into 4. A few forcemeat balls are proper in it. Lay the veal in the dish and pour the sauce all over it. Garnish with lemon. Or thus: half roast a breast of veal, then cut it in square pieces. Put it into a stew pan with half a pint of gravy, a pint of water, a bundle of sweet herbs, an onion stuck with cloves, a little mace, and stew it till it is tender. Then take it out and pull out all the bones. Strain the gravy through a sieve, then put it into the stew pan again with a spoonful of mustard, some truffles and morels, a sweetbread cut in pieces, 1 artichoke bottom, about 20 forcemeat balls, some butter rolled in flour, enough to thicken it. Boil it up till it is of a proper thickness. Season it with pepper and salt, then put in your veal. Stew it for 5 minutes, add the juice of half a lemon, then put your meat into the dish, the ragout all over it. Garnish with lemon and beetroot. Another way to ragout a breast of veal. You may bone it nicely, flour it, and fry it of a fine brown. Then pour the fat out of the pan, and the ingredients as above with the bones. When enough, take it out and strain the liquor. Then put in your meat again with the ingredients as before directed. A breast of veal in hodgepodge. Take a breast of veal, cut the brisket into little pieces and every bone asunder, then flour it and put half a pound of good butter into a stew pan. When it is hot, throw in the veal, fry it all over of a fine light brown, and then have ready a tea kettle of water boiling. Pour it into the stew pan, fill it up and stir it round. Throw in a pint of green peas, a fine lettuce whole, clean washed, 2 or 3 blades of mace, a little whole pepper tied in a muslin rag, a little bundle of sweet herbs, a small onion stuck with a few cloves, and a little salt. Cover it close and let it stew an hour, or till it is boiled to your palate, if you would have soup made of it. If you would only have sauce to eat with the veal, you must stew it till there is just as much as you would have for sauce, and season it with salt to your palate. Take out the onion, sweet herbs and spice, and pour it all together into your dish. It is a fine dish. If you have no peas, pare 3 or 4 cucumbers, scoop out the pulp, and cut it into little pieces, and take 4 or 5 heads of celery, clean washed, and cut the white part small. When you have no lettuces, take the little hearts of Savoys, or the little young sprouts that grow on the old cabbage stalks, about as big as the top of your thumb. Note, if you would make a very fine dish of it, fill the inside of your lettuce with forcemeat, and tie the top close with a thread. Stew it till there is but just enough for sauce. Set the lettuce in the middle and the veal round, and pour the sauce all over it. Garnish your dish with rasped bread made into figures with your fingers. This is the cheapest way of dressing a breast of veal to be good, and serve a number of people. To collar a breast of veal. Take a very sharp knife and nicely take out all the bones, but take care you do not cut the meat through. Pick all the fat and meat off the bones, then grate some nutmeg all over the inside of the veal, a very little beaten mace, a little pepper and salt, a few sweet herbs shred small, some parsley, a little lemon peel shred small, a few crumbs of bread, and the bits of fat picked off the bones. Roll it up tight, stick 1 skewer in to hold it together, but do it clever, that it stands upright in the dish. Tie a pack thread across it to hold it together. Spit it, then roll the caul all round it, and roast it. 1 hour and a quarter will do it. When it has been about an hour at the fire, take off the caul, drudge it with flour, baste it well with fresh butter, and let it be of a fine brown. For sauce, take 2pence of gravy beef, cut it and hack it well, then flour it, fry it a little brown, then pour into your stew pan some boiling water. Stir it well together, then fill your pan 2 parts full of water. Put in an onion, a bundle of sweet herbs, a little crust of bread toasted, 2 or 3 blades of mace, 4 cloves, some whole pepper, and the bones of the veal. Cover it close, and let it stew till it is quite rich and thick. Then strain it, boil it up with some truffles and morels, a few mushrooms, a spoonful of catsup, 2 or 3 bottoms of artichokes if you have them. Add a little salt, just enough to season the gravy. Take the packthread off the veal and set it upright in the dish. Cut the sweetbread into 4 and broil it of a fine brown, with a few forcemeat balls fried. Lay these round the dish and pour in the sauce. Garnish the dish with lemon and send it to table. To collar a breast of mutton. Do it the same way and it eats very well, but you must take off the skin. Another way to dress a breast of mutton. Collar it as before, roast it and baste it with half a pint of red wine, and when that is all soaked in, baste it well with butter. Have a little good gravy, set the mutton upright in the dish, pour in the gravy, have a sweet sauce as for venison, and send it to table. Do not garnish the dish, but be sure to take the skin off the mutton. The inside of a sirloin of beef is very good done this way. If you do not like the wine, a quart of milk and 1/4 pound of butter put into the dripping pan does full as well to baste it. To force a leg of lamb. With a sharp knife, carefully take out all the meat and leave the skin whole and the fat on it. Make the lean you cut out into forcemeat thus. To 2 pounds of meat, add 2 pounds of beef suet cut fine, and beat in a marble mortar till it is very fine, and take away all the skin of the meat and suet. Then mix it with 4 spoonfuls of grated bread, 8 or 10 cloves, 5 or 6 large blades of mace, dried and beat fine, half a large nutmeg grated, a little pepper and salt, a little lemon peel cut fine, a very little thyme, some parsley, and 4 eggs. Mix all together, put it into the skin again just as it was in the same shape, sew it up, roast it, baste it with butter, cut the loin into steaks and fry it nicely. Lay the leg in the dish and the loin round it, with stewed cauliflower, as in page 17, all round upon the loin. Pour a pint of good gravy into the dish and send it to table. If you do not like the cauliflower, it may be omitted. To boil a leg of lamb. Let the leg be boiled very white, an hour will do it. Cut the loin into steaks, dip them into a few crumbs of bread and egg, fry them nice and brown. Boil a good deal of spinach and lay in the dish. Put the leg in the middle, lay the loin round it, cut an orange in 4 and garnish the dish and have butter in a cup. Some love the spinach boiled, then drained, put into a saucepan with a good piece of butter and stewed. To force a large fowl. Cut the skin down the back and carefully slit it up so as to take out all the meat. Mix it with 1 pound of beef suet, cut it small, and beat them together in a marble mortar. Take a pint of large oysters cut small, 2 anchovies cut small, 1 shallot cut fine, a few sweet herbs, a little pepper, a little nutmeg grated, and the yolks of 4 eggs. Mix all together and lay this on the bones. Draw over the skin and sew up the back. Put the fowl into a bladder, boil it an hour and 1/4. Stew some oysters in good gravy, thickened with a piece of butter rolled in flour. Take the fowl out of the bladder, lay it in your dish, and pour the sauce over it. Garnish with a lemon. It eats much better roasted with the same sauce. End of section 5.